Patrick Blees,
Here.
Eric Brun as an excused absence, Rick Gelbman,
Here.
Andrew Weiss,
Here.
Council Liaison Lisa Wong is absent. She may be showing up. I haven't heard from her, so I'll just make note if she does. Okay, and we have Brandy Howe with WSB, and myself, Lisa Ritchie, City of North St. Paul, Admin Assistant.
Okay.
Cameron,
How did that
Cameron
happen?
Muick, Commissioner.
Just blending in with the wallpaper.
Obviously, he's here.
He's here.
No,
Update this
we
list. I
require a
apologize.
here.
Present.
Thank
Well,
you.
that'll do. Okay, we have a quorum.
Here comes trouble. Hi, how are you? Good, how are you? Good.
Okay, Lisa Wong just came in, so
Got it.
she's not absent. Alrighty, we have an agenda. Anybody want to add anything? Can't remove anything or we won't have an agenda that they wanted to bring up. No, if not, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Move to adopt the agenda.
Moved by Rick, is there a second?
Second.
Second by John. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, we've got the agenda. And then the only topic that we have this evening is finalizing the 2023 project priorities. So did you want to present that, Brandy?
There's not really much of a presentation, so what staff has done is taken a look at the 2040 Comprehensive Plan, the recently approved redevelopment master plan, and the Living Streets Plan. Those are the documents that have implementation action items throughout them, and so we developed a kind of a master list and then kind of whittled it down into bite-sized pieces based on to sort of work through in this meeting tonight. I don't know if I would call it a 2023 implementation list, but more of what the prioritization is so that we can make a recommendation to City Council on how they might want to plan for their annual budget and their capital improvement plan.
Okay. Do you know when that will fit into the budget planning piece?
I don't have that information. I know they're working on it now. Maybe Lisa?
Yeah, I think we're working on the budget right now, and every commission's going to have an opportunity. So if you all want to have those discussions, the sooner, probably the
Are
better.
they kind of centered around the same type of approach as far as prioritizing? I mean, it seems to me there's like big buckets here that you could slip a lot of these items under.
Yeah, the buckets that I proposed are the plans and studies that would be conducted, activities and programs that would be likely to be regularly occurring, staff-centered type actions, and then infrastructure projects.
Yeah. Well, and I was also thinking of, like, some of these seem to fit under transportation type related.
True.
Versus some were focused on downtown. And that in my mind was thinking of how do we, another way to kind of focus at least our interest.
Yep, I tried to give you the comprehensive list of everything, and from there, we can,
Perfect.
change, categorize it however you like.
Okay. So, Lisa, and now I have to say, Councilperson Wong, because otherwise, Lisa thinks I'm talking to her. Do you know, are there any priorities that we should, already known priorities that we should be aware of?
If you give me one moment, I can pull up some of the priorities that we had done in our prior retreat early on with the former city manager. So once I find that, I can give you
Okay.
some up.
Okay. Alrighty, so how do you want to go about this? Because it's a lengthy list, but.
And then the other question is, since we're trying to develop priorities, how are we going to identify or mark the priorities that we identify? I mean, is it gonna be a 1, 2, or 3, or is it gonna, I mean, have you got an idea about how that, because there's a nice little blank spot here that says
Yeah.
priority. And how far do we go as far as, I think if you go past about 3, it's kind of a waste of time.
Yeah. Well, you're talking
Right.
then future.
Then you're talking future, yeah,
I mean, you
so,
could try to do it just the basic short-term, medium-term, long-term, which encompasses, short-term then encompasses a little longer stretch of time, however you'd want to do it. But, I mean, I don't have a problem with just 1, 2, 3 from a work plan
yes,
perspective.
yes.
Because, we're saying that's what we want to focus on to get done.
Do we want
potentially.
to run through the items that we have, if you will, questions about, or that we think require some discussion about what do we mean by this?
Sure,
Do we
can
want to do that first?
I don't think that's a bad idea. I would just say, and because it's been on my mind for quite some time, is that I think one of the ones near the top needs to be the downtown design manual. I mean, that's so overdue.
Can I back this up? Because I want to be able to track the conversation as you guys are talking through it. So I heard 1, 2, 3 as being the prioritization, so number 1 would be highest. Would we say that that's like a 1 to 5 year kind of
The
timeframe?
downtown design manual?
Just in general, the one.
Oh, the one, I don't know, 1 to 5 seems so long. Are you comfortable with that? Kind of almost like a 1 to 3.
Yeah,
Because you
That
might
sounds
start
reasonable.
on something knowing it's going to be a lengthier.
That's what the park.
Process.
1 to 3 was a short term, and then 3 to 5, and then it was long term after 5.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of, because even if you start something 1 year, as we know, it can take over a year, even though you think it's not going to.
So I've jotted down 1 would be 1 to 3 years.
Yeah.
2, okay.
I think, unless you all,
I think 1 to 3 is fine. I'd question 4 and 5 being intermediate. I would think maybe more like 4 to 8 or something like that to give you a little bit more time on an intermediate length plan, because that's something that's going to take a little longer. But certainly 10 years plus to me is a long-term type of plan. And so the question is kind of where would you draw the line between medium-term and long-term?
I think if it has to do with the comprehensive plan, I think those, you want to try to keep it below 10 years, because we're going to be working on a new comprehensive plan. So you're
That's true. It is
trying to
every
get
10
these
years.
things done, and I don't have a problem with 4 to 6, only because some of the early ones are going to be almost preparatory work that needs to get done before you can go to this other
Yeah, that's kind of my thought,
thing.
too.
So I don't have a
Yeah.
problem with the 4 to 6 if everybody's kind of in line with,
4 to 6 and 7 plus, kind of.
yeah,
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 yeah.
I think that's good.
Or 7, I thought I heard 7 to 10 after the comp plan comment.
Well, 7
7
plus
is,
Okay.
is the third priority.
yeah.
The only thing that I would say is that, kind of in relation to your comment, the CIP, I think, is a 5-year plan. So if you're going 4 to 6, you could potentially be bumping a lot.
But our stuff doesn't generally involve the CIP, the things that we get highly involved.
Okay, so it's more
As far as.
annual
creating-
budget kind of activities.
Yeah,
Do you,
yeah.
maybe this is for you, do you know, do they put plans and studies in the CIP, or is that a separate bucket?
I can't recall, I don't recall.
Yeah.
They don't, but that's,
For sure, but I think the intention is to do so going forward.
Oh, okay.
and what we're talking about too is just the staff allocation, because that has in the past kind of been a hindrance, is well, we don't have any money to do that, even though it's something we know we need to get done. So I think that's a part of this as well. So some is study type work, and other is just the grunt work of doing something.
Can we also go by these categories here, too, and do 1 to 3, so break them up? Because right now they're broken up into 3 different categories.
I'm,
It
Let's
seems
get a
like they ought to
sense-
be rated by category.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, it seems like, yeah.
yeah, I mean, if we want to do it by
That's what you're saying.
A lot
So
of
we
them
got
are
the-
going to
yep.
be comp plan.
Comp plan, but then you got quite a bit of the redevelopment on the other side.
Well, that's because that's based on the comp plan.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking of the headings that they have for the three.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Oh, as far as like
That's
living
more, I
streets
think of the
versus-
plan part, yeah.
You know, that actually,
Planning, engineering projects or studies, we rate those together and then go on to the next one and rate that group.
yeah.
That's a good idea.
Makes it a little more,
Manageable.
something you
a
can
bite.
pretend at least that
Yeah.
you can keep it all in your brain, or at least I
Yes.
can try.
Are you talking about,
Like right here. okay,
let me just ask, are you, when you say planning, engineering, projects, or studies,
Yeah,
rate each of those items within that bucket
yeah, within
from
that,
our perspective?
from our
Yeah,
perspective.
I mean, I think that's the key, is from, and in some cases,
Does the city council get these same kind of recommendations from other commissions?
I guess they're going to. I'm assuming
They
they're
will.
kind of in the same
Okay.
type of,
Okay,
same type of approach.
okay, so that makes it,
Yeah.
that frees us up to have our own perspective rather than looking at it broadly from the city only.
And are we able to recommend combining? Or are we strictly as things are labeled? Because I'm looking at this top one here, create design standards for mixed use, and then also the downtown design manual. Well, our downtown is mixed use.
Yeah, we
So
have
to
mixed
me,
use elsewhere, though, too.
Right,
Yeah.
but to me, it just kind of makes sense to consider them together, and then you'd have a downtown section and a non-downtown section.
We might. I mean, I don't know. I was questioning, what do we mean by mixed-use design standards?
Okay, put a pin in that, and I will try to open up the master spreadsheet and figure out where that came from.
I mean, I don't know why they'd be different than our other,
Well,
most of our other design standards. That was really my question.
I think it may also be useful to force us into only rating so many top priorities.
Well, for
So,
us, yes.
you know, and so, make it a third, and a third, so 1, 2, and 3 each, or maybe even limit the ones to, to 4 or 5 or something like,
But one thing I did notice in this top one was, that's where I first noticed there's a lot that are related to transportation, whether it's pedestrian or whether it's parking or whether it's transit. And those,
You want to lump them all
to
together.
me, all go together into the bigger picture. And that is applicable downtown and everywhere. That's what I was getting at when
Okay, yeah.
was saying.
Yeah,
Agreed.
that can be more efficient for staff to be able to accomplish.
Yeah,
that.
well, I would hope that you'd try to do all that, because the downtown parking is an issue. That, and our off-street parking piece that we do need to do elsewhere have been on the table for a while, too.
so I would think the downtown master plan and the downtown design manual are related too. So like the first three, like Cameron said, the first three have relationships one to the other.
Is the downtown master plan, is that really actually just the redevelopment master plan we just did? Or is that something different?
Yeah.
I thought the downtown,
I thought it was covered in that.
I thought it was in the revitalization, downtown revitalization plan.
Yeah, because it does cover all.
Now, when you say
downtown.
that, is that the 7th Avenue reconstruction plan? Okay.
Yes. And that is heavy on the infrastructure.
Right, and that's already,
So it's-
that's already in the works,
Completed.
implementation. I
Right.
think it's
And that
already
was done, I think,
programmed.
in 2018, so it's quite recent.
Mm-hmm.
And still in the implementation, but that would kind of go along with an outdoor dining
Yeah, I was thinking that same.
ordinance and,
Okay, sorry to keep interrupting, but I just want to make sure. So develop the downtown master plan, is it actually the 7th Avenue reconstruction plan and
that's.
and
I don't
therefore it's
know.
already
Someone
done?
would have to tell me what it is if it's not
So
that.
I'm just going to say
It
done.
is.
That's
yeah,
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay,
It is.
If it isn't just that, it's in conjunction with the redevelopment master plan that was just approved.
Yep.
I think between those,
Together.
together, they've covered it.
Okay, so here's what I think it came from. Develop and implement a comprehensive downtown master plan for public improvements, which promotes, encourages future investment and business growth in the downtown area. That doesn't have anything to do with infrastructure. I think we've accomplished that with the redevelopment master plan.
Yeah,
Right.
Well, it's a
Agreed.
combination, it is both. One was the infrastructure, and that, I think at one point, people were calling that the downtown master plan.
Okay,
But it actually was called the downtown revitalization plan. So to me, that's like, okay, that's done.
So what is item 4, develop district redevelopment plans as opposed to the redevelopment master plan?
It would be like a plan for each of the 7 districts that are identified in the redevelopment master plan is, I guess, what that would be.
okay, so this came from chapter 6 of the comp plan. It says, develop a plan to allow for the growth of the tax base of the community through growth and redevelopment of the identified districts.
It's another one that I question whether or not it is adequately covered in the
I think it's
redevelopment master
about
plan.
covered as well as it's going to be, because,
Yeah,
I mean, I think the whole approach was, let's not be so specific.
right,
Try to say
exactly.
we're gonna
Well,
put
and that was
this
kind of
here
my
and
point.
that thing.
That was kind of my point,
Yeah.
is the redevelopment master plan is intended to be somewhat open-ended. And I think if we got more detailed with it, you are going to get too detailed.
Yeah, you'd have to.
So I would consider that one done as well.
Now, the wayfinding navigation, does that relate to updating the wayfinding plan? Or is that something entirely different? Because that plan is out there and kind of gives the strategy.
Yeah, I think that's probably, so these are coming from your comp plan, and I'm hoping that
No, that's okay.
you guys have the history more than I
Some of them
do.
were carried over.
Okay, so what it says is design a strategy that provides better wayfinding and navigation to and from parks and trails. So I'm assuming that the comp plan came first and the wayfinding plan came
Yeah,
second.
that was from, even in the old
Okay,
comprehensive plan. So the wayfinding plan was done in like 20,
so maybe we call that in progress?
It was started, but I don't think it was ever completed.
no, it was. It was
The
adopted.
plan,
The
okay.
wayfinding
Got it.
plan, just the plan.
Got it,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
It wasn't totally
the
implemented.
implementation,
Correct,
yeah.
yes.
And I'm sorry, I have a question for the committee, since I wasn't around when the comp plan was done or updated lately. How much of the comp plan was actually hammered out item by item from within North St. Paul, and how much was picked up whole cloth from what other cities had done and simply copied
No,
over?
it was
No,
definitely here.
Okay, all right, that's great. I'm just glad, the only reason I ask is because my department at MnDOT reviews city comp plans. You'd be surprised at how many are basically a find and replace of somebody else's comp plan. So,
that was not how this one was
good,
done.
I'm glad to know that. Thank you.
So develop park master plan, that's a carryover as well. So I think that's probably partially done,
I think that's complete.
as far as a master plan for the system.
For the,
Parks, trails, and open spaces.
yeah, they've got don't they have a plan out there and they're just implementing
Park
it?
improvement plan is what they have.
Uh-huh, okay.
That's not exactly the same thing as a park master plan.
Master plan, okay.
Because a master plan looks at every single park and, long-term
Connections between them.
connections and the open space areas and the whole thing,
Perhaps,
so you can take the big picture and use that to prioritize.
perhaps we just say not within the purview of this body.
Yeah, I mean,
Is
it's
it
not.
more of a
It's just
park-
one of those things
park
that
board?
was due.
Is that an appropriate note, those,
That, pardon me?
to say that it's defer to the park board?
Yeah.
Okay.
Park and Rec,
Well, the Park
yeah.
Commission would be
Yeah.
the one to work on that, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
That would go along with the, it's really a plan, the develop
The tri-
ADA compliance plan for parks.
yep.
That's really develop a plan,
Yep,
an ADA transition plan.
that's a,
That's new in the comp plan.
that's a Park
this-
and Rec thing too.
This'll,
Yeah.
and that does need to be done, for sure.
Well, I know that some of the new work that's been done has really paid attention to that, so that when we're doing new things, they're doing a pretty good job, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, the problem is we have to go back and fix things we didn't do.
Yes.
That's the real issue. Those are the ones you
Yeah.
want to,
It's like the accessible.
Clean that up.
Accessible path to the public right-of-way. That's a tough one to do sometimes.
what's tougher is doing the internal accessible path.
Yeah, it depends on the situation, yeah.
What is the wellhead protection plan?
Let's go down one
All right.
by one. If you-
We do
So
one
then
by
I
only
kind
one.
of jumped ahead because that one went
You
with
jump,
that.
I can't jump, I get in trouble when I jump.
That's all
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Elaine's in charge tonight.
Well, I'm just trying to lump them because, some of them we know we're going to have to work on. So the bus rapid transit, the
Yep.
traffic and operational studies, and the park and ride, and trail corridor.
Trail corridor's a little different. That
It's
relates
slightly
more to the Park and Rec master plan. The park master plan is where the trail corridor component comes in, but it relates to the
Is
traffic.
your mic on, Elaine?
Yeah,
Is yours on down at the end?
yeah, it's
Yep.
on.
Yeah,
Yep.
they are all related.
But they are related just from a transit
Mm-hmm.
perspective. I'm thinking of the comp plan, and there's a transportation section, and that's
Mm-hmm.
where all the trail stuff, for the most part, is. So that's kind of how I connect that whole piece of you're trying to build a system of transportation.
Yeah, the ADA for parks would definitely fall under that area too.
Well, it has an impact for sure. There's
About
obviously
the
two
off-street
pieces.
parking.
One is to the park, the other's within the park.
And I think the
off-tree
the
street.
trail corridor proposal of the Met Council is a different deal.
is,
That's a
yes.
linking us to other communities
Right, exactly.
connection point.
Yeah, the
So
county.
that's
and-
more traffic oriented than
Yeah.
the ADA parks thing, because
Yeah,
that's.
it's the
more
Ramsey
internal.
County thing,
Yeah.
any state trail, of course. that
So
kind of stuff.
do we consider those all together for any reason? Like they should be prioritized together, or do we specifically, I mean, I'm asking the question rhetorically a little bit, but we need to decide, do we separate them out and maybe different pieces get different priorities? Or do we just put them all together and say they're all priority together because they're related? So it's just a question I put out there for as we're establishing priorities, and I'll leave it at that.
To me, it's like a study. A lot of this has to do with studying the issue, which again is kind of the staff piece of it, and probably the engineering gets involved in that. So I think kind of putting them all together makes sense, at least for a starting point, and let them
Yeah.
worry about the details of the rest of it, because we're not going to do the studies that would be necessary.
So which three are we talking about? The conduct the traffic and operational studies?
Starting with the bus rapid transit and going down to the trail corridor,
Okay, so all of these are
those four.
together, okay. So these would maybe be deferred to engineering.
Well,
Does off-street
off to
parking,
others and
does
then-
off-street parking fit into that as well?
not entirely, because some of our off-street parking, it's definitely the issues that have come up with various permits we've looked at. So that really is a code type of issue.
What
Okay.
about the Cohen Elementary School Park Link and the ADA Comprehensive Plan for Parks? It seems like that would also go with those four then.
Yeah, that would go with the park piece of it.
It goes with the park
Master
piece.
plan, that's part of the, like a master plan, trail plan.
Well, since they extended their new parking lot, that's almost down to where the path goes right across the street to the, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay. So a study for transportation corridors would be one bucket, and then a trail park connection.
Well, this is a
Study.
specified one that's already in the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
Specific, the one for Cowern to Southwood. There was also Cowern to Helen?
I guess I'm just not clear on what the note or the direction is.
Well, for that one, what we're saying is to prepare a plan for Cowern Elementary School, Southwood Park Link. That would be like one of those elements of a park master plan, type parks, open spaces, trails.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's connecting parks and schools and,
Yeah,
know,
I suppose
public locations.
technically it connects to wayfinding, but not exactly.
yeah, no, wayfinding is more the signage and,
Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
So then the ADA compliance plan for parks, would that also be an element of the park master plan?
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, it would.
And so would the prioritization of the trail plan be dependent on whatever roads we're prioritizing with Morgan?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you.
So would that mean that the prioritization of the trails align with what Morgan has in terms of street reconstruction too? Because we try to do things, I
Like the
mean, it makes
aerial-
sense
like
from
the
a
aerial
systems.
sidewalk?
It may.
From a systems point of view,
Yeah.
it makes sense to
It
me.
might, or it could be a separate project.
It's one of the reasons a master plan, a trail-related master plan is so important, is
Right.
because as they're looking at the roadway, we know that there wants to be a trail here based on the trail master plan, so then you're creating the links. It becomes a much more efficient way to get those links made.
And some really aren't adjacent to a street.
Right.
Or it might be a street that's way out there.
Or it might even just be a crossing of some sort,
Yeah.
or a series of crossings that
Yeah.
happen as part of it.
Could a trail be a sidewalk? 'Cause I'm just thinking from Cowern to Southwood Park. If there's sidewalks there, would that be considered a trail?
Could be,
Well, it could be part of the pedestrian route,
Mm-hmm.
is the bottom line.
right.
Usually a trail would be wider than a sidewalk, not all the time, but usually because you'd allow for two-way traffic on a trail,
On the trail?
and the sidewalk doesn't,
Yeah,
what they're usually looking at is like, can two wheelchairs cross each other on the trail? And you don't necessarily always look at that way on a sidewalk. It would
So-
be nice if you did, but we don't always.
And I can, if you want to, I can speak very specifically to sidewalk versus trail experience, because Lake Boulevard was fairly recently finished.
yeah.
And I can tell you how that's used, if we want to talk about it at some point, but
At
that's
some
not for
time.
tonight.
Not,
One thing I
It's
would.
really interesting.
Maxstein at some time? We'll
Yeah,
have-
yeah, it's really interesting to see how it's used or
Yeah.
not used, as the case may be.
I'm very interested.
Yeah.
And I'm just throwing this out to make sure that it's not overlooked. Don't forget to check with MinDOT and with the county about trails, because I know that we really want to put a trail along 120.
Good.
And, that's on the city limits, so,
Right.
make sure that the Parks Department is in touch with other areas to make sure that they're not planning something that's going to be duplicated a block over, or, that somebody may not be filling a gap that we have.
well, there'll be a lot of people looking at
Yeah.
any of these plans.
Yes.
So that's not,
Especially
you
120.
know,
How the heck you do that?
it's not a, one little group makes the plan and
No, I know.
off it goes.
I know, but.
But engineering will be involved in
Yeah.
that, and the street folks will be involved in
They're involved with
120 in particular.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and that's a real key one, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So the wellhead protection, that's under the
On the water.
water, stormwater, right? That's definitely
No.
engineering.
No, that's not stormwater, that's water
Surface
supply,
whatever,
isn't it?
Whatever.
That's our well, that's water supply, that's not stormwater.
Well, whatever, it's under the engineering.
It's all definitely an engineering thing. Do we know what that relates to? Is that a security thing, or is it something else? Do we know?
that the one I asked?
what it means?
Well, it has to, it's part of the stormwater protection plan, whatever the heck they call that, every year that has to be updated. So it's just an annual update, really, is what it boils down to.
I'll have to open up the comp plan itself, because the notes that we took just say update the wellhead protection plan.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I wasn't thinking well.
Right now, but I can look for where we're at with that plan and see what's on file and forward it.
We don't really need to.
Don't need it now.
You were just curious,
Yeah.
right, of what it is?
Yeah, I
You
was
can
just
actually
curious.
find it online,
Okay.
but there's
Well-
no need to, because,
Yeah.
again, it's not,
It's not for today's
it's not a
discussion.
zoning issue.
Business, but for future reference, if they wanted
Mm-hmm.
to know a little bit more about it.
Yeah, yeah.
You can find it online on the website?
Mm-hmm.
on the
I would
North-
Like I
imagine,
say, it's reviewed,
Yep,
I think it's every year.
I'm going to guess that it's probably a regulatory document that you're
Yeah, it
required to
is.
have updated every
Yeah.
5 to 10 years, so.
yeah.
And once you
And
mentioned,
lengthy.
once you mentioned wellhead, I forgot about we have big wells in this city.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Then it dawned on me, okay, we don't have wells, now we do.
The dining ordinance, is that really council member
Sorry.
Wong, is that talking about an ordinance that would allow outdoor dining? And then how that would be regulated, or what specifically, when it says develop outdoor dining ordinance? We talking under land use as a part of a restaurant, business, bar?
Well, I can answer that. So that's coming from the redevelopment master plan, and that recommendation is to allow basically sidewalk cafes, and that is an in-progress update.
Okay, then that would be a zoning issue for sure.
It's not really zoning, because it's on public right-of-way, and it is something that I'm working with the city attorney's office and with the interim city manager to develop something.
So you're going to put it in the right-of-way ordinance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I can't remember which chapter it is. Maybe it's
What if it's
117.
what if it's a restaurant that's not downtown?
Well, then they could probably have private property.
So it would just be allowed then?
Right.
Outdoor dining.
Outdoor dining, yeah.
Okay.
If it was
Well, I would
over-
imagine so.
yeah,
I'd have to double-check the zoning
I mean,
code.
we're only talking about when it's in the right-of-way.
Yeah,
Sorry?
I'm just verifying, we're only talking about it when it's in the right-of-way.
Correct.
So anybody else can just have a patio, no problem,
right.
for dining?
I
And-
believe
and
so,
the
yeah.
issue of zero lot lines downtown,
Yes.
you know.
Oh, I know,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
understand.
yeah.
That's all, I'm just trying to make sure that that's what we're saying.
Yep, and there was another ordinance that was recently amended a couple months ago that
It
allows.
was the liquor one.
Yep,
Yeah.
so you can have outdoor dining and liquor,
Right.
as long as you update your liquor license.
Now, here's my question. This is not going to be confused with outdoor seating,
Well, it's the same. It's,
which we
it's
already
written.
have as a use in zoning code, but it has criteria.
outdoor seating for restaurants?
Pardon me?
For, what are we talking about? For restaurants?
Just outdoor seating, doesn't matter.
Is that in the right-of-way component?
I would have to look at that, because I'm not really sure what we're,
That came up, I think it was when we were talking about the design of the furniture and stuff. You remember that,
Yeah,
Lisa?
I do. And I have it on file
Yeah.
forward.
But the
So
differentiation.
that's why I'm just trying to clarify exactly
Yeah.
what this is referring to and make sure we don't have something that's inconsistent in one piece of code
Yeah.
versus another.
It's a component of the right-of-way part of the ordinance versus the private property part of the
Well,
ordinance.
that's what we're talking about if it's in the right-of-way.
Right,
But we do, I'm asking about what if it's not in the right-of-way? Because we do have an outdoor seating
but
use
in which part? For
zoning.
right-of-way? For right-of-way or for
on
private property? Yeah,
But all I'm saying is, if you want an outdoor dining, you only care about it if it's in the right-of-way.
Right.
We don't care about it if it's on private property and
Okay.
business. That's all I'm trying to clarify.
makes sense, yeah.
Because I don't want there to be a confusion about the use we do have is for outdoor seating, for eating, or for whatever purpose. Because if it is, then we need to take a look at it and see if it needs to be updated. That's my point.
what this is referring to is public right-of-way. So if there's something that needs to change in the zoning, then we can take a look at that separately.
But that, to me, is something we want to take a look at.
It is.
So for the next just for the next time we look at these things, just to clarify, what do we have in zoning code that might make it difficult to do this?
I'll need to look at that because I am not sure off the top of my head.
We're down to off-street parking study.
Yeah, that one was for, that I know is like a downtown type thing.
What is expected as part of that study?
How much do we need, how much do we have?
Okay. How much should we add
Or take away?
or take away? Yeah, okay.
So is this excuse me, related to, like minimum parking for
I think that's a
development?
separate thing that's not on here that we
Okay.
need to do.
Okay, so I'm confused, because this has been kind of one of those
But it could
nebulous
almost
things.
be tied into it.
Yeah, it should be as part of the same discussion.
Thing.
Huh?
But this is for like, this is, the downtown thing is specific to, or the parking study has always been specific to downtown because that's where there's so much shared parking. You know, and no parking, you know, very little.
Okay, so would we say, so we would evaluate the quantity of shared parking in downtown?
Well, it's primarily a downtown parking study, but I think at the same time, we should be looking at parking, off-street parking requirements for not necessarily downtown,
Okay,
so that we're seeing the relationship of those components of the rules
Well, and we,
guidelines.
we have run into some very high requirements that seem too high as we've looked at various permits, not downtown, but where people, you know, don't share parking, they have to have their own parking lot. You're required to have your own lot. You're not required to do that downtown. And that's what this one also, that doesn't necessarily need a study, that means more just gathering data. There's probably data out there, and some of it is just testing whether what we have even makes sense anymore.
Right.
A lot of cities have done away with it, including, I think, Minneapolis, haven't they?
As St. Paul did.
St. Paul just did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Madison has too.
Pardon me?
Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think it'd be hard to go, I mean,
Do we know how
It's
many
a hard
spots we
place to
lost
park.
downtown when we
Parts
redid
of
the
Madison
street?
are really hard to park.
A lot of bikes, though.
Yeah, a lot of scooters and bikes.
We did, because the.
well, maybe a
brick
couple.
things.
That's right.
We actually have more parking downtown than people realize.
Well, the back lots, yeah, but in the street, when they redid the street, how
yeah.
many spots did, I
But, you know,
was curious to see how many we
that's
lost.
the way that is. So that's kind of a two-parter.
You guys can't see my notes at all, sorry. Yep, so I'm trying to like categorize them. So the larger heading is the off-street parking study, and then one would be evaluate the quantity, I guess, of shared parking in the downtown, and then evaluate the off-street parking requirements in all districts.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think really the second one gets at this, what's in the zoning code, and does it even make sense?
Parking
anymore?
minimums.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't really looked at it for a long time.
That's what I'm saying, I think there's a parking study on file, but it may be from 2011.
It's more recent than that, but it was part of the Resilient Communities thing.
Okay.
Yeah. That's online, too. That's on the website.
And is that something that could maybe be coordinated with, any parking studies that's done with the Lilly Building? Could we maybe
Well,
Good.
it probably could. I don't know what parking studies they're doing.
There would have to be a shared cost
They have to have
scenario, but
something to,
it seems like it would be logical to do it at the same time, or at least pick up on whatever data they gather and maybe work with the same firm doing it,
I think it was a,
something like that.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it might have been a student project. Does that sound right?
the Resilient Communities thing, that's what that
Yeah.
was, the university.
previous one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
you're right, yeah.
But actually, it's a pretty good product. But I don't know if it's, you know, how much it might have changed. Obviously, we have more we have more residences there now than we had actually had more businesses, more retail when that one was done. So, little bit different there.
For the parking minimum part of it, I don't think that's a study, right? Is that,
No.
okay. I just
No,
want to make
that's
sure.
looking- That's us looking at the zoning code and really kind of
Right.
looking through, what do we have and what does it mean when you apply it?
And should it change?
And
Right.
do we think it should change?
It's a tough question without having data.
Well,
No?
we'll see what data
Data
we
to
need
compare
once
it
we start.
Well, one of the things that, I mean, parking is one of those issues where it's not very quantifiable, like what is the right amount? Where planners just guess. We don't want to tell you that, but.
But you know, there are all of those traffic count, or what do they call it? Parking counts in some manual somewhere.
Right, that's what I
That you can kind
mean.
of use to get a sense of, are we?
But those are from like the 50s and 60s, when we used to
Have
have.
they been updated?
I don't know. Parking is one of those things where it's, the tides are changing in terms of what is desired and appropriate. So I think that,
So,
I would like to see, and I don't know how feasible it is, but often with developments like the Lilly building that's coming in, we're going to ask them to provide us with some kind of basis for why they're suggesting the amount of parking that they think that they need, so that there's some rationalization behind it. Because it's not going to meet the zoning ordinance, so we want to have some rationale as to why we're going to give them flexibility on that parking standard. So things like that, so collecting those kinds of pieces of data would be helpful.
Well, I'll give you the example that really kind of hit home, I think, for all of us, is the school projects that were done. And every single one of them needed more and more parking. And that's not something we want to keep saying, yeah, just, or they didn't meet. I remember one case, I can't remember if it was a school, where they didn't meet the minimum parking requirements, and the rationale for giving a variance was, well, the code was a hindrance. Well, if the code is a hindrance, then let's look at the code.
Sure. I'm not arguing that the code doesn't need to be changed. I just think that wherever we can find data to help guide decision-making is where we should look.
But I think other places are doing it, so we might as well see what we can come up with. And we can all drive around and see we've got some huge parking lots out there that are pretty much not used.
Right. And then on the other hand, sometimes I'll work for communities, and they are like North St. Paul, where they want to reduce as much parking as possible, and you offer that to developers, and we know what we need.
Yeah,
And what we say we need is what we're going to build.
yeah. But I think we could start on that from the zoning code, just kind of look through it and see. And even look around at, like I say, some of in the non-downtown areas, we've got little strip malls and places there where, for the most part, the parking lots are 90% empty all day long. Well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have that kind of pavement when you don't need to. So that's really the starting point of it, and if we need more data, then at least we'll have some feel for what is it we really think we need.
Worst case scenario, I'm friends with Jeff Tumlin, who's made quite a name for himself on the West Coast on updating parking requirements, so I could always try to reach out to him and see what he could suggest if you guys have problems.
Sidewalk maintenance district.
what does that mean?
That would be the council. That would
What
be
does it mean?
Well, what is the
Taxing.
district?
Creating a district that you tax for sidewalk maintenance, essentially. Usually, I'm
where is
thinking that would be applicable downtown, somebody's thinking?
I'm not sure if that's for for snow removal or fixing old broken
Sidewalk
sidewalks.
maintenance.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not,
I think that what it does is that assure businesses that move into the area, they've got plowed sidewalks,
I don't know.
and
I'm
that
not
can be,
sure. I'm not
I
sure.
think that can be
plows a
pretty
lot of them.
valuable.
Downtown, they plow the one that goes around Lake Boulevard.
But that's like staff,
It's Public Works.
I'm thinking is gonna be working on that one.
She would
Well-
know, she's shaking her head.
I'm not talking her, I'm just talking
Who would do
staff.
it?
Should be, but it's contracted.
Whatever.
That's,
I'm not talking the actual maintenance, I'm talking about, it says establish
Doing the
a
study.
district.
yeah, that's gonna be, I could see that as, working in conjunction with the EDA to see if it's even desired in certain areas, like your downtown. Yeah, I think we would have to, let me look at that one on
Well,
the
there's
comp
not
plan.
downtown, like I said, it goes around the lakes over too, so it's not
Right,
just
I'm not
downtown.
sure that that's what they're talking about. I mean, I don't
She
really
just,
know.
right now, she just said
I think
that
it
it's
came out of the
downtown, it's not
redevelopment.
downtown. So that's what I'm trying to clarify,
Yeah.
is what she said.
That it is.
Yeah. It
That
came,
it's not just downtown.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Well, I'm wondering too, could
But all I'm
we,
saying is it's not something
You
we have
keep
to
saying
do.
that again and again, but no, I understand.
is that something that we could look at for establishing districts? Because I know, for example, Ypsilanti, Michigan allows their citizens to get together and form what I would consider a sidewalk maintenance district, where they all group their fees together every year to pay a contractor to, to maintain and plow their sidewalks in a particular area.
Is that governed by the city though?
Yeah, I think it's permitted by the city.
I don't know why people couldn't do that on their own.
Business
improvement district.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, establishing something like that in code might give people an idea that it's allowable. Maybe not. I'm throwing it out there,
Thing to explore.
I'm trying to think of, I think St. Paul does that with their alleys. I mean, the folks just get together and
Perhaps
hire
that was brought
Wow.
up because I know there's different areas that over the years, the city has taken on maintenance just in order to get a project to move forward. And then there's other residents that are not happy because they have to maintain their own.
yeah.
That's how the Silver Lake one went through, is because they said they were going to take care of the snow removal.
And so maybe we need established districts, so.
And that seems to have some bad feelings for other people that still have to do their own removal.
Yes.
Okay, so just to bring us back to prioritization, so I think I heard you say that the update the downtown design manual is, we would call that a number one priority. Is that correct?
I think that's true.
Okay. And then there was create design standards for mixed-use development. Is that underneath of that? That's like a sub-criteria? Okay.
That was a sub-part of that, right?
That's what we talked about.
Yeah.
All right. So under the planning studies, then, I don't think we have really anything for this body except for that downtown design manual. Oh, wait, no, and then the off-street parking studies. So that would that also be a one, or would we want to make that, I think I've gotten the sense that the parking studies are one priority.
Yeah, I think we should make that a one priority.
Okay.
It's greatly a data gathering exercise.
Have they ever done one of those strip things where they count the cars and how many are downtown?
They did a trial one on Margaret a few years ago. Was it
Was it
25 years?
Margaret and
Oh,
Seventh?
not downtown. no,
Okay.
I'm
So
sorry.
that'd be kind of interesting to find out how much more traffic now that we're getting more things, what
They
that
actually
does.
did do that with that
See if they
one
can run again.
from the 2012, 2013, whenever that one was. They did do a count
Okay.
of parking, so that, you're right, if they do that again, then you've got to go back and see the difference that might have occurred.
I'm sorry, you're talking about traffic counts, or you're talking about parking counts?
Parking.
Oh, parking counts.
I think you were talking about both.
Yes.
Yes.
Because I was
talking
going to say,
about both.
MinDOT has a contract with a thing called Streetlight that actually calculates the number of cars passing through an area. And as that's something that I want to say council of government, the Met Council has access to. So I imagine you guys are members with the Met Council, so you should be able to get that kind of data through Streetlight through us for traffic.
every streetlight, or is it only specific
No, it's,
ones that have-
Streetlight is the name of the program. Basically what they do is they can draw gateways on any street or streets in the area and calculate the traffic count between those two gateways. So, you could do it on, 7th Street on both ends of the downtown, you could do it on 7th Street in one block, just to see how many vehicles are passing through. What it does is, they count the number of cell phones that pass through those gates and are pinging off the cell phone towers in the area. Because that's something that's, first of all, easily tracked, but also easily anonymized, so that they can't necessarily link, a ping to a person. They just know that the cell phone has been picked up here and then picked up there, and however long it took to get through.
Interesting.
Right, that's for traffic counts, and the program is called Streetlight.
Does it count you if you're walking and using your cell phone?
They are doing that now, yes.
I mean, does it differentiate?
Yes, it does. They
again-
do it by speed, basically, they're,
If you were running, maybe a slow car.
Or biking.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
they are now doing bike, transit, and pedestrian, although I'm not sure, how accurate the difference between bicycles and transit would be, because they kind of tend to move about the same speed. But they say they can, split it out. So,
Very cool.
I think that would be worth taking a look, especially with the Gateway Trail right there, seeing how much business
I
could
would-
come in.
Doesn't MinDOT have trail counts?
Probably.
yes, there
I
are.
would think they definitely do.
We do have some fixed trail counters, and then there are also, I want to say, 6 portable trail counters that can be set up. That you borrow them from MinDOT, and they can be set up on a trail to count. So that would be something that you check with our Ped Bike people down at the central office on. They'd be able to tell you that. Either that or Mackenzie, I'm forgetting her last name, and I work with her. No. Mackenzie's in our Bike Ped office at Water's Edge, and I'm forgetting her last name right this second, but if you can't find her, let me know.
Something you think we should look into, borrowing that?
If it's, yeah, I mean, if that's part of the priority and.
Yeah, they're fairly easy to set up, too. Well, let me rephrase that. I've taken them down several times. I've not set one up, but they're not hard to take down, so I'm assuming they're fairly easy to put up.
It's a little less creepy than somebody sitting there with like a radar gun.
Yeah.
A little clicker.
Yeah, a little clicker.
Okay, so I think we covered the plans and studies. Do you guys want to move on to planning department programs and activities?
Do you know if Public Works may already have a tree planting program? Possibility.
I do not know that.
Well, isn't there, I thought that there was one already,
Yeah, I think there might be one.
because I know I've applied for free trees the last 2 years in a row.
Yeah, we have that, but I think there may, and maybe it's not a formal, or but I could check with Josh Bond and find out. And I'll let you know on that.
Okay. So on this list, I see create a downtown marketing strategy, develop housing maintenance program. I'm not sure about that one for
It's
planning.
like HRA. or-
Yeah, okay.
Does that make more sense? HRA.
Is
Potentially.
that almost like a Woodbury where they have they gotta have things in certain order?
Well, I guess it might be, it's different for every community. So when I worked in Rock Island, we would have, some pretty serious housing maintenance issues. And that was something that was more code enforcement, making sure that if you are not maintaining the exterior of your property, then you were going to have fines that you'd have to pay, which Woodbury, I would imagine, would be a little bit more, you cannot have a polka dot house versus maintenance issues. But I think that might be better left to possibly the HRA or decision by your new city manager, city or community development director, if that's a priority.
I mean, are we sure that this isn't like having a program where you have loans
That's what
for
I'm
people
wondering.
to
I see. Okay, let me
Them-
take a peek.
maintain their home? That, I wasn't exactly certain what that meant.
Could be.
I think the
That's
city
my
had that at
understanding.
one point, I don't think it does.
Yeah, I know, I'm just asking,
But it's in the comp plan.
I'm not sure exactly what that means.
Oh, yep, here it is. The city should consider the development of a program to prevent properties under 50% of the median home value from continuing to fall further below the median value. So it's trying to keep property values from diminishing based on maintenance issues. So
Enforcing that.
enforcement, but I don't know if the city has any, like a housing ordinance that would require, that's something to look
Is that
look
one of
into.
those, is that in the housing chapter?
It would be if it exists, but
So
I'm not
There's a
familiar.
grid in that chapter
A grid?
that talks about the ways things the city can do. And that's where some of the loan-type programs or funding, grants, that kind of stuff. Maybe this is one of those.
Oh, okay.
things That's incorporated in that.
Sure, so I see what you're saying. So it could be accomplished in different ways. So
Yeah, it doesn't have to be
authoritarian or,
penalty.
yep, got it.
So we're not
Could be a
forming an-
carrot.
We're not forming an HOA?
Okay, so I'm not sure what to do with this one.
Well, either way, I think it is
Housing.
Housing, okay.
housing, and it's probably staff, council, HRA
Yep.
type of issue, not something we're going to develop.
Right.
Sounds good.
And any marketing plans were not obviously part of that, right? So,
Right.
Yeah, I don't see a lot in this second section.
Can we talk about what is a downtown service district? What is the meaning of that?
Just a moment. Okay, so it says, consider establishing a downtown or a special service district supported by a levy to maintain and enhance the downtown public areas. So a taxing body to fund park benches or your green space that you wanted to develop and as part of the downtown master plan. So again, that would be somebody probably from the EDA in combination with
Council,
council, yeah, trying to
yeah, could be the council,
drum up support for such a thing.
if they want to do. But it is a tax on property owners.
Yeah, I don't know what the law is in Minnesota with relationship to those, but I would imagine you have to have probably 51% of property owners within a designated area that want to be part of it in order to establish such a thing.
So what's the establish a process to review job-producing land uses?
Ooh, let me look that one up too. Job producing land uses.
Farming.
Manufacturing?
Here's the process. Let me go by and see if anybody works there.
That's right.
The EDA had talked about a tech school up here, on McKnight and right before 36. Is that in the reading?
No, I'm just trying to figure out what that.
Well, that was, but this says identify the types of land uses and related building types that promote job generation and retention to encourage economic growth in the city. Establish a process by which the preservation or creation of job-producing land uses is reviewed periodically by city staff.
EDA.
It's like a zoning thing. Yeah. I don't know.
I think it's.
That's a strange one. We'll defer that one. Or we would consider it kind of done because we've already updated our zoning code and pretty much made it flexible for all.
I like your thinking.
Just mark it down. And
I think all of these are just, these really are like plans. Whoever creates them, but
The one that's on here, that's come up in the meetings, the redevelopment master plan, was the story map idea, which is, I don't really care for that terminology, but it's basically a development tracking and marketing GIS platform that you would have out there that somebody would have to probably from the city maintain, so that you would be able to depict what sites are available and then also demonstrate to the public what is actively or actively being reviewed or under construction. So that's a city staff kind of,
Yeah, it's
so not a priority for the planning commission is what I'm hearing, okay.
I think it's a cool idea, but it's really a marketing kind of thing
Yeah.
more than anything else. And, you know,
Okay, so I hear nothing, no priorities from section 2.
Correct.
Okay, section 3. Let it rip.
Let it rip.
Some of these go back to the other side, the original,
Yeah.
the planning engineering bucket.
Kinda like
A lot of the,
proposed trails and the downtown park square features. that's
yeah,
other-
yeah, quite a few of them on here.
Okay, so should we just go, start at the top and then if you see one that is a priority in any way for this body, then we will give it a number and then just kind of ignore them if they do not?
Well, there's a reference to construct downtown pedestrian links.
Yep.
I think that's extremely important to do.
I agree.
Especially with some of the nearby assets, the Gateway Trail and stuff like that, that is not well linked. I mean, it's linked reasonably well at the Snowman, and that's about it. But there's not good links to downtown. It'd be really nice to make it cleaner in some places and more attractive, combine it with the wayfinding effort, and really make it welcoming for people going by on the trail. Because right now it isn't.
So the next one down, the construct trails from Parks, Open Space and Trails plan, that would also
Yeah,
go along with that, okay.
those go together.
I agree, like you said, the snowman.
I would
as
make that
well-
a number one.
As well, but then you need it at both other ends to.
Yep.
I can let you know that the develop a downtown park square feature, the EDA is currently working on a possible parklet, if you will, between Sidewinders and the Tattoo. There's a big parking lot there, but this is only to be a temporary parklet, so
Well, comment, we're looking for something permanent,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
and you never know how
but
long
making it
temporary
look
is going to
nice,
be.
yeah. Making it look nice
Well,
makes
again,
it
we
more
have people
attractive.
living downtown now, and it would be nice if we create something. That's
Yeah.
been on the wish list for a while now, so
I know the EDA's intention is to sell that down, develop it.
I understand what you're saying. All
Yeah.
I'm saying is, I think we need to focus on getting something that's
This-
permanent.
Yeah, this might be a good conversation to have in the joint meeting with the EDA.
Yeah. What is the West End Neighborhood Park?
Construct one, so.
I know, I'm just thinking.
The new park
When we
downtown.
say West End,
Considered
what are
West
we
End.
talking
Yeah,
about?
right.
Northwest, southwest?
West-west?
There's Colby Hills on the west end.
No, I'm asking specifically, this came from the comp plan.
Oh boy, I'm on the spot, let me see.
I know what it used to mean. I don't know if that's the same anymore.
Is there a West End Housing and Redevelopment District?
I think there
Where
is,
the townhomes went in.
I don't know.
but that's in the, in the, what do you call it? The economic development chapter. I mean, it used to be, but that was in the McKnight area. And I think for the most part, we've used up that land.
Okay.
There's a parcel that's across from the townhomes that is up on a steep hill.
Yeah,
That
I
is
know.
pretty covered in, a lot of wooded, a
Yeah.
lot of dead trees, but there is discussion of how that might be a very nice green space or a walking path, a passive park for families there.
Yeah.
Is that in the downtown?
Not if it's really steep, probably, that would be a,
Well, it's manageable.
is it?
I think
Okay.
it is, you know.
You know, I was trying to picture.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
part
It's
of our
right next to the
redevelopment.
road, isn't it?
Got it.
Talking about a roundabout going in there because of the five-way corner.
Be something we'd be able to take advantage of getting.
Mm-hmm.
Like green,
Yes, green art sculptures.
water fountain.
Yes.
Okay.
When they did the townhouse development, did they put a park inside that area or not at all?
No, not,
Okay.
the apartment didn't put a park, but they put a playground
Yeah.
in the apartment piece.
There's like a little dog area too in the Sentinel.
Yeah. No, I was just curious if we knew exactly where that was when we talk about West End. Okay. But I think develop a downtown park square feature, I consider that a high priority. I think it's become a higher priority than it was before now, since we've got housing down there. And what I'd really not like to see is to build something temporary and think, well, we're good for a while, and then take it out.
That's
And
what
now people,
they Did
Yeah.
for City Hall.
what happened?
And they
That's what they
lost.
did for City Hall, and then it's, looking the way it is now, people aren't gonna probably purchase it.
No, I'm saying if you put in like a feature, like a park feature, and then people get used to using it, they're not gonna wanna see it
What's down where the
taken
cannon,
away.
where the cannon is now, what's there? I mean, that's just-
Nothing. And
but that's an
on the
area.
corner, yeah,
That's an
yeah.
area, it's a triangle area.
Yeah,
Yeah, because you're right, because I know the Gateway Trail, I think, has been having, or not Gateway Trail, but the Bruce Vento Trail's been having that problem, because they gave them temporary use of the right-of-way for bicycles and pedestrians, and now everyone is screaming about the fact that they wanted to take that for transit use,
Yeah.
which is why they bought it in the first place.
Yeah, and they even had signs the whole time.
Yeah.
but that's a good point, the corner of, just across the street from the Dew Building, where the Masonic Temple used to be.
Yeah, that's right.
Vacant space.
Yeah, it's been vacant a long time.
I'm not sure, but I'm just saying, I just think that the downtown's park square type feature is a high priority. And it's one reason I'm not necessarily a fan of doing anything temporary, because I worry that people get used to using it, and then you're taking it away and you don't have anything to replace it. That's one of the things that I was thinking of.
Yeah.
They're
Oftentimes downtown parks, the impetus behind them is for people to linger around and shop more and do more business. And then
Right.
take
There
a
are
break
two
and keep
different
going.
cases here with talking about the same thing. And it's establishing a park space, open space downtown.
Yeah, I noticed there were a couple.
Yeah.
Well, implement various
And there's
intersections.
two different versions of traffic calming features, at least two different places where that's referenced.
Yep,
Rain gardens, let's see, what was the other thing I was thinking?
So that means our priority then for showing up in multiple.
Exactly, exactly.
well, some of, the last bundle down here is from the Living Streets plan, so that does
Yeah.
get a lot into the sidewalk.
Yep,
and
bicycles
the
and,
bicycle piece of it, which we
Yep.
really haven't even talked about, but bicycles are another piece. But there are a few, like resurface city tennis courts, that would be under the park master plan. Trying to find something that isn't already covered.
And I'm sorry, it's not on the list here, but do we have anything in code or city rules and regs about establishing like a bicycle rental station or a scooter rental station? Because, they're all over St. Paul now, and they might come out towards the nearer burbs sometime in the not too far distant future.
Do
Especially
we have a
this one.
rule?
Well, do we have anything in plans to allow them, not allow them, regulate them if they come out this way?
Not to my knowledge.
Regulations.
Yeah, well, I don't think, we don't
I
have any
don't think there's any
regulations.
regulations.
Might be something the council wants to think about. It's kind of traffic related.
You know, isn't terrible policy, right? You don't want to, over-regulate when nothing's a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't sit well with people's
So, moving down the list, there's a resurface of city tennis courts item.
Yeah,
They
that
are,
would be in the
and-
park master.
And the
plan.
one they did at Silver Lake Park is great. It's used all the time.
It's good.
It was it was very professionally done, too. I mean, I give that one really high marks.
Wasn't that a volunteer? Wasn't that some kind of special?
I don't know, but it
There's a
was,
sign up there.
it was very well done. It was very professional, and people use it for
Part of the capital improvement plan.
pickleball and tennis all the time.
Yeah, pickleball's
Yeah.
really going.
Yeah, it's
They're adding a
very
new
popular.
pickleball court, I believe.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
increases.
It was empty until pickleball showed up.
yeah.
And there's a lot more pickleball.
Yep.
Um,
Do we have a league here?
Trail extension on Casey,
do it.
is part of the park.
we don't have a league, but go ahead and start one.
That's right. If you take cripples, I'm in.
Several of these are just going to be incorporated within the Parks Master Plan.
Yep.
But the design and implement Sepulveda Boulevard conversion
I-
project.
I'd sure like to see that one be a priority.
I think
I
it
think that's
is.
really important.
Well, yeah.
I have
would
a
agree.
question about that. I think to do that right, we need to get rid of the power lines.
That's a conversation we have.
Do we know,
with the Electrical director.
has there been discussion of that?
Again, yeah, I'd have to talk to him about.
Because I think that's key. Otherwise, because it's really a hindrance to doing anything meaningful there and making it friendly. But I think there's a lot of potential for Sepulveda being something more than a back alley.
Well, I think in the redevelopment master plan, we had put that it was more of a pedestrian or multimodal space, and then the storefronts there would be a little bit more like the front of it, so people can enter both ways.
Yeah.
Almost a mall type thing.
I would make that a high priority, given a choice, if you're asking me.
Conversation came up in last night's arts meeting as well, as we look at doing art downtown. One of the commissioners asked about, because they want to do a mural, and then if we could incorporate that with the Sepulveda Boulevard project. So I think it would be good if we could maybe get our commissions in mind.
Have some conversation.
There was mention of a roundabout
Yeah,
over at the Five Corners, which I think is a great idea. There was also mention of a sculpture potentially
Yeah.
as a great idea. That potentially becomes something that's a gateway. And look at, I think of Nashville, for instance. They have a whole bunch of roundabouts with big sculpture elements in them. But if we could get cooperation to do the same thing on 120, wouldn't that be fantastic?
awesome.
That would be perfect from a gateway perspective to downtown. I don't know how you get the necessary parties to agree to that on 120, but
Yeah,
Morgan is working
pretty
on it as.
complicated.
yeah, that's the problem on 120, you've got, what, 5 different parties that all
Yeah.
have control over half the street?
Exactly, exactly. It's
But-
really
It'd be a little
complicated.
short roundabout just for Ramsey County. Just-
But it'd
Yeah,
be
It's
a
half,
really
it's
good
half
idea.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be a great idea, and there are issues with traffic speed and things and safety on 120, so,
Isn't that supposed to be done part of they're gonna redo
well, that's,
120 down?
I think it's been talked about that some roundabouts might be incorporated ultimately, just to manage traffic safety. And I think that's a perfect spot for one, except for the fact that the right-of-way isn't very big.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Well, one of the things that we've been finding out, MnDOT's not doing them much yet, but a roundabout does not have to be round.
Right,
So, You know,
Yeah.
it can be oblong or
Right.
pork chop kind of, there doesn't have to be a full circle, so.
Go to England if you want to see some really weird roundabouts.
Snowman.
Oh, yeah. But, yeah, you could definitely talk with the
Yeah, that's true.
East Area Planning, or East Area Support Team. They could tell you more about what's planned on 120. I just hear whispers now and again. So I know they're talking about, replacing the intersection up there, 120 and 36 with an overpass. So, and I don't know, I don't know how they're figuring on doing that with the bicycle overpass there at the same place. But, I know that there's talk about that kind of thing.
So the Sepulveda, below the Sepulveda is the Highway 36 and Century Avenue improvements. I mean, I know for us that is, the whole Century Avenue is a high priority, but we're not the ones who set.
We're part of the party.
We're part of the parties,
Yeah.
but, and I
Yeah.
think, you could
And we bought
certainly.
the old BP for that
Yeah,
project.
yeah.
I mean, if.
You could make it a one, just from the city perspective, I think that's a
Yeah.
priority.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
agreed.
The public EV charging stations, are they gonna go into the Sixth Street lot?
So K&J, yeah, there's two there.
Where are they?
I think there's two hookups. I haven't seen them yet, though.
Oh, maybe the cabling is in for them, but.
Maybe the actual,
Brian.
yeah.
I
Is
know that
the-
we did get a, grant, I think it was a grant, an allowance for two of them, and that's what it was, there's planned, the, cabling or wiring is there for more if they do.
Is the one in the
I don't
city,
know where the two that were,
is the one in the city parking lot just for city vehicles, or is it,
no, it's for everybody.
anybody can pull up and,
Public
Jumps on it.
parking.
but
Once
it's,
in a while.
but it's paid. I mean, it's a pay per hour kind of
I
thing.
think it is.
Paper-
Is it?
Paper kilowatt or whatever.
Yep,
Okay.
I'm paying for it right now.
So, the ones that are done in the parking lot?
I don't know, I haven't been there.
Oh, okay,
Any updates.
okay.
Well,
So,
I just had the lovely experience of experimenting with a longer trek with my electric vehicle. And we went to Wabasha, Minnesota.
Ooh, that's a long drive.
And there's no EV charging in Wabasha, no charging stations, and there are a couple in Lake City. 4 plugs, 1 was operational. So it gave me this feel of,
Panic?
if you're gonna do it, you need to make sure they work. I mean, it was kind of a significant learning experience because until there's a little bit of density, you have that risk of, it's not functioning for some reason. So it was a really good, I think whatever the city can do to expedite that, it's a really good idea.
I think it was just a matter of budget.
so then the next on here is the install public EV charging stations. So that's a high priority for the city?
It's definitely a priority for the electrical department. I think that they're anticipating, because of all the fleets from different companies completely shifting, he's actually a little concerned of how fast we have to adapt. So, I think EV
Okay.
charging stations are a priority for that department.
And the level 3 charging is pretty high, is 400 volt. So you need 3-phase power to it. So it's a
Okay.
pretty big deal from an electrical standpoint.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're 10 grand plus, probably.
And I think
Probably.
we're looking at 6.
Yeah, depending on how close that kind of power is. But that's the fast charge, which is what you want if you have a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're gonna actually have people using them, so.
Okay, public art.
We are working on that.
Right, I know. I'm just asking priority piece.
It's a priority for the
It's in
commission.
the works. be a priority for planning, I would assume, if other commissions are working on it?
What,
No?
does planning commission have a approval authority on art, public art?
Nobody, well, our,
Well, if we're
Or is it
talking
all
about
the Arts
Project
Commission?
Snowy, and that's in the right of way, we might have some conversation about that. These are like
yeah,
large
you
statues.
consider them structures, but
They're statues, they're not small. They're, what, 6 feet tall with a big concrete base?
I wouldn't imagine that that would come to planning commission.
Think so? Okay.
That'd be a recommendation from the Arts Commission, wouldn't it?
Probably,
Yeah.
To the council direct.
yeah, I would think so.
yeah.
Would
That makes
planning have
sense.
any involvement with murals?
Probably not.
I don't know
So-
why.
Ordinance, because it doesn't fall under a sign ordinance.
Correct.
No, it's not
Right.
governed by signs.
Correct, I would put that on the Arts Commission too.
Because a mural is, yeah, I
That
mean,
really makes
that's
sense.
what,
That's why the Arts Commission was established.
that's why
in
they
my
were
mind.
established.
Well, I mean, like the placement of a
They'll do everything.
Project Snowy. Because if we have them all up and down downtown, is that in the right of way and they're outside of
Oh.
businesses? That's what I'm asking. Does that make sense?
It does. And I don't know if it makes a difference if they're temporary, because they could be movable with that. We can, yeah.
Yeah, and then.
I don't know,
If they're owned, if they're a $5,000 sponsor, then does that change the rules a little bit?
So the only thing that I can think of would be sculptural. There might be safety issues. So that, whether that comes before planning commission, just because it relates to zoning requirements and traffic safety. If there's, visibility at a corner or something, that kind of a thing, being outside the traffic triangle,
Project is in the works, so
Yeah, that.
that might come to
Yeah,
us.
that just wouldn't happen anyway.
But from that perspective, it could be a straight block piece of stone, and we wouldn't have a say about what it is, so much as it's blocking traffic view, that kind of a thing, you know what I mean?
The vets committee is looking at a memorial rock,
Yeah,
which.
I heard talk of that,
That probably might come before your commission.
depending on where, yeah,
But Vets Park,
yeah,
and isn't that off-ramp from Highway 36 right there?
Yeah.
And these-
so
the-
location of it is a big deal,
No.
But it
Yeah.
still depends on, it's precisely where it would be placed.
right?
Because
it's not
there
If they
is-
had it right on the corner, we couldn't see around it.
Yeah, exactly.
If
I
it's,
mean,
if
A
it,
big rock.
I don't think it would be complicated, it's just
I'm
something that needs to be
serious, like-
It is, huh?
considered.
Huge boulder.
I'll have them apply
Yeah.
for, zoning permit.
So it'd probably,
What doesn't roll down the hill?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I think that's wise.
Yeah.
Well, some things are kind of like structures when you put them
Right,
in or near the right-of-way. I mean,
And-
that's just what they are.
That's what's holding them up right now. is
Yeah. But that would be true of a sculpture or
Yeah.
anything else.
yeah.
How tall is it?
I don't know, it's over
Okay.
10,000 pounds, and that's the issue, because.
It's
they
a
can't
pretty big
get it
rock.
transported here.
Yeah, and then it's, yeah.
I have to think of a
Even
smaller
getting on
rock.
the bridge, that's a whole thing.
I don't even call that a rock,
No kidding.
a boulder.
We'll have our first mountain in North St. Paul.
Yeah, right.
Well, if you're curious, look them up online, they're apparently all over the US. So they're just
We just saw one, we were down in Northfield and saw one,
amazing. Really?
and it was, as tall as the wall. It was big.
Ooh, you don't want that.
At, I think it was Babcock Park.
No, I'm just waiting.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, for the last items with the Living Streets Plan, labeled as from the Living Streets Plan,
Yeah.
I just think maybe we could lump those all together and consider those under, just reviewing the Living Streets Plan to see if it needs any updates. Because again, that's been a while since that was created, and I don't think most people have read it.
I don't think it needs update so much as it needs implementation.
Well, again, I just think first you look to see, is it
Yeah.
still gonna
Yeah.
do what we
But
expect now?
But that
given what's
also has to
happened?
be part of the engineering component of when we're upgrading a street, what are we doing?
Oh,
Are
yeah.
we following it or attempting to follow
Yeah.
it?
What is the traffic calming measures?
Maybe
I was
it's
kinda
like an
curious.
accessibility. thing.
Well,
That's part of the whole.
Classical
have-
music
have
and the-
sidewalks, have. you
Bump
know,
outs?
yeah,
you
as, I think the,
Instead of having just a road, you have it weave a little bit.
Yeah.
yeah,
Narrow down.
and I think the
slows
divided,
Traffic, and you put trees near the edge of the
Oh, that's what
roadway.
that
yeah,
is.
the divided
The
road,
one I hit on Beam every time
There
it
you go.
snows and I go up the
Oh,
curb because I
oh,
don't see
you're
it.
talking about the curb.
Yeah, it goes.
There's
if
a
you-
lot of black on it.
There is. Half of it's me, I think.
if you look at what we did with the most recent improvements on Seventh,
Yeah.
that's
and the center divider and the landscaping
Right.
and stuff, that is intended to be traffic
It
calming.
narrows the travel lanes.
Narrows the
and that
travel
makes
lanes.
People slow
People
down.
gotta think about what they're.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
you have to pay attention. But anyway, I think just reviewing that and making sure it's still something, I mean, it is, but one of the pieces in that was to, there's a, what do they call it, a preliminary sidewalk plan and connection plan, including for trails. So there are various ones that, you know, go to schools here and there. And I think that is something that has not been used and probably should, but first, you know, again, I think it would make sense to take a look at it and see if that really
Yeah.
is where we're headed and has any of this been done? Because it, I mean, we all know until the last, well, till Ariel and Lake Street projects, it just wasn't followed. Because. But it seems to me the council is more in tune with the non-vehicular infrastructure now.
It's always welcome for, I think, probably your recommendations. So,
I'd say that's a pretty big priority then
Yeah.
for us to look
Well, I
at.
think it's something we really we're
walkability.
trying to do, and we're kind of behind the eight ball. Matter of fact, on Ariel,
Mhm, looks
you know,
nice.
they're putting in the same kind of
On it today.
Sidewalk.
sidewalk, and there was just a thing on one of the social media sites today where somebody mentioned it, yay, Ariel's getting done, and we're getting a sidewalk, and several people piped up with, great, I'm surprised there aren't more sidewalks in the suburbs, blah, 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 and I thought, very interesting. I mean, that seems to be one of those cases where, when you do it, people appreciate having it, and they're gonna use it.
Right.
No, I know, but that's, again,
It's for the public good, right?
exactly. And, you know, the cities, people who live in cities with sidewalks, who live in St. Paul, they maintain them. It's not an impossible thing to do. But I don't know if the city is gonna, and that might be part of that sidewalk maintenance thing.
I think they're gonna plow that one.
Whether
Wow.
they want to, consider plowing some of them, or, how they want to do that. But at any rate, it's
There-
people appreciate
there
them.
there can be other ways that the sidewalks can be maintained too.
Oh,
There are, volunteer organizations that are out there that would do it.
I've said the
Especially
city could
for
buy every
elders.
neighborhood a snow blower, and
Yeah, I
some
mean, there
guy
are-
would be out there
There are
just
ways
loving to
of
play
doing
with
it. There are
that.
ways of making it happen, and it doesn't necessarily just fall on the city to
Yeah.
do the maintenance.
I agree, because you do all or nothing. There's people around that still
Yeah.
have to do it, because their sidewalk is 25 years old down Helen, and
Yeah.
everybody
And
else
if I had to maintain the sidewalk across from my house, I would. Our neighbors across the street wouldn't, but I would.
So anyway, everybody okay with just lumping those all together?
Yeah.
And doing a review
Yeah.
of the.
Yeah.
Make
Living
that a
Streets
priority,
plan?
yeah.
I'm actually a little surprised, as old as North St. Paul is, that it doesn't have a more extensive sidewalk system.
Yeah.
That's a long story.
A lot were removed, I think.
We'll talk about offline.
We had all.
was Newman's
Right,
meeting.
It's just, we gotta try to deal with
Yes.
it now and going
Oh,
forward.
yeah, everything's a 1, except for I put a 3 down for the public parking ramp, because that's,
Oh, yeah.
7, 8,
Yeah.
good.
yeah.
So are you needing us to change something?
No, I don't,
We just need to get going.
I mean, really, this is just to, again, demonstrate what the priorities of this body are and hand it over to the decision makers and see how it shakes out into that budgeting cycle. So something I'm curious about, maybe Lisa can explain to me how this works. Do we have a representative from Planning Commission present to council, or do I do that?
We haven't had anyone, or the finance director who's been leading the budget process, really specify who would that be, but it's certainly something we can ask.
Okay.
I think at this
Winnick.
point, because I had the conversation with him for another commission,
Okay.
he's just looking for an itemized list.
Okay.
And he can format it as needed and do the presentation, but I'll let him know.
That's Brian or?
That
the-
would be Dan.
Dan.
Oh, the,
Dan Winnick.
okay. So finance director, okay.
Well, and we're not, we haven't necessarily just done priorities for us. We've also tried to
Sure.
figure out what might be a priority for the city,
Well,
so.
and that's what I was thinking. It's too bad this list couldn't be presented to the other commissions, because that would help them in their.
Yeah, and maybe that's something we can add or just send off from,
Okay.
yeah, from here on out. They're in slides
Form some
form, right?
Nonprofits, so those nonprofits can support our projects, right?
You can have some students do it, capstone projects, tons. Or they can revisit the Living Streets plan again.
Actually, probably churches and those groups too would have youth groups that could do sidewalks. I actually did think about that it's for the whole maintenance thing, it's like
Yeah.
not
Oh,
really that hard.
Scouts,
to
student
do.
groups, I
Scout,
mean, there's
yeah.
so many different
Even
ways
schools, the
that could be
kids
done.
have to do public service in many cases,
We
There's a
did-
community
We
type
did it when our
activities.
kids were little, you
Yeah.
know?
I know.
People
You
come
just-
into City Hall and inquire if there's
Yeah.
organizations that we're aware of that would
Yeah.
help them, elderly people
Yeah.
that can't
Yeah,
obtain what
Yeah.
they have.
good way to volunteer,
Mm-hmm.
Kids looking for something to do, there you go.
You have-
Seniors have something to do.
You
Yeah.
have to maintain that.
Of all the people who should have to work.
List of the
Come on.
surveyors that the city
I've
had.
actually had kids.
That survey list was so out of date, none of the phone numbers worked. Good deal.
I'll let those guys know, yeah.
So is that all you need? I mean, I guess we know for us, you kind of were able to differentiate from what we would want to be able to start for sure next year, the things that we want to look at, right? You've got that, so that would translate into staff time
Sure,
of
yeah.
some kind from a budget perspective.
Do
I-
you- do you also have a list of, that we started with just ideas that the planning commission?
The work plan, I
Yes,
do.
last year,
I can pull that up if you want to take a look at that.
Well?
I think it does make sense. I'm going to share that screen, let's see.
I think they're pretty much the same, aren't they?
Well, let's just verify.
Months ago. Parking, downtown.
Yeah,
Check.
The zoning map update. The zoning map update.
Oh, that is one of those technical things we need to do.
Yeah.
yep, so we do have a couple things on here that would be above and beyond. So the subdivision ordinance amendment, short-term rental requirements.
And those are the ones that are in there. Just a couple things.
Okay,
I would put like sidewalk and pedestrian plan above short-term rental. And the wayfinding plan too, especially since the parks have kind of are eager.
I think the city manager had the subdivision ordinance. I know staff recommended looking at that.
I know that the sidewalk and bicycle and pedestrian component, the Living Streets had significant elements related to that.
Yeah,
So that's really covered as long as we look at the Living Streets plan.
yeah. And I agree, probably wouldn't be changing much of it, but you just never know until you kind of review it after.
Yeah. I don't.
5-6
I-
years.
I was involved in the original creation of that. I really don't think there's going to be a whole
So was
lot to
I. I remember
change,
sitting at the
so-
map saying,
Yep.
well, if I were riding my bike from
Yeah,
here to here,
yeah,
here's the route
exactly.
I'd take.
Right, I wish this street was more friendly to bicycles.
Exactly.
Right,
Exactly. That's how those initial maps were drawn. It's by people just sitting around saying, well, here's where I'd go. So, anyway. Anything else on that? Okay.
So has this been done before? Do we need to make I guess it's a workshop and not a regular meeting, so you can't really make an official recommendation? Okay.
no, I think initially it's just staff compilation of what we,
Discuss.
trying to make sense of our jibber jabber.
Got it.
And it's something staff requested, so.
Which, for some reason, Brandy, you seem to do that pretty well.
Do what I can.
Yeah, all we used to do at the end of the year previously was just kind of, and haven't done for a couple of years, just advise the council of what we were planning to work on in the upcoming year. But I think it's slightly different now that we have contracted staff, because there's hours. We don't have just, several dedicated people who can work on things. So it kind of changed
Sure.
the way things needed to be done, I think, is part of it.
Okay.
Okay, so we don't have any other business, but I'll do staff reports just in case you have.
I have something to share. I have good news to share. Oh! The, Public Works did have, I think it was 6 of the bike racks in stock, and they've been installed. So thanks to Rick for the recommendations. I gave them the list, and they went down the list and installed as many as they could.
Nice.
And
Where are they?
What were
I
your
mean,
recommendations,
approximately where?
Rick?
Are they
In front of your
downtown
house,
or-
when we're all
Yeah.
set.
That's in and
I
out.
want one in my front
Yeah,
yard.
didn't you see it out there front? Here, City Hall
No, I
was
was
one of
just kind of
them.
curious. It's-
City
And then
Hall,
a
yeah.
couple on Main Street. Yeah, I mean on 7th.
Post office.
Oh, that's good.
Post
I
office,
don't know
yes.
how far this went, because there were a couple in some of the parks already. So.
Yeah, and there was
and-
one, yeah, by the Veterans Park.
Okay,
Good
yeah,
job.
Veterans,
Already.
Silver Lake, I understand, had some, or
Mhm.
one. Love's Ice Cream was on your list, or down on that end.
Oh, you got a
but I
sweet
don't
tooth, huh?
know if- But it was a good list, so thank you
Yeah.
for your recommendations.
Excellent.
Good.
So how many more do we need?
Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yet
when
to be
some of the
determined.
feedback, Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, we don't have any more in stock. You'll
It's
have to-
probably going to fall in Park and Rec. to make
I didn't see the one out here. I used my usual lamp post.
So they didn't put one out here then?
I don't know, maybe it's out there and I just didn't
Well,
see
here's
it.
here's
I
the
didn't
catch.
see it.
These bike racks, a lot of people don't know.
They
it's a
blend
bike rack
in.
When they see them, because
They're
as
decorative.
was it this commission I told years ago, they had a picture of someone in a park that had chained their bike to a tree, and like literally right next to the bike rack.
Maybe we need to change the design of the bike.
Well, yeah.
In the future purchases, we will
Yes.
definitely be doing
Is
this.
it those ones that have a circle?
Yes, so they're like
With
this.
the,
You
Or
could
St.
get,
Paul.
you could get the ones that are
That
the
makes no
shape of a
sense.
bike.
That was
There you
silly.
go.
Those are pretty obviously
What's
bike
wrong with
racks.
the old-fashioned where you could park
Well, and there's
Oh,
the,
yeah.
there's the ones that.
I'll
that-
tell you what's wrong with those.
Oh, you.
Hide the tire in.
or the one that's actually designed to look like a
You just can't
bicycle.
put
Yeah,
your,
that's what he said,
you
yes.
can't attach your bike, only your front tire to those,
One drops down, so
so you can't really lock it very well.
density actually, and it's just like one big one.
Yep, yep.
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah.
Have to double check out here.
Well, the
So
other
I
thing
think
too is you
Rotary
need to account for the
some
electric
of those.
bikes now, and those are a good deal wider.
They
you know.
just-
Because I remember looking at it thinking, what the heck is
I think it's a-
And then I realized that must be one of those bike racks. No wonder nobody knows what it is.
Good deal.
That kind of goes with the story of someone smoking in the park, like standing under a no smoking sign, so.
That's right.
Yeah.
So any other reports?
Sign ordinance was passed, was it last Tuesday?
Yeah.
Or a week and a half ago?
Good job.
Excellent, got that one out of the way. Alrighty, we'll do, well, I'll do other business. There isn't any other business. So now we'll do commission reports. So,
Yeah, I mean, I just had a question, I guess. It's not really a report from me, but it's more, I guess, about, what we're going to be doing in the next year. And I just want to throw the question out, I think mostly to maybe Lisa, and maybe there's been discussions on the planning commission before I've been here, but I just was curious if there had ever been talk about getting a member of the planning commission on the HRA as a, person that maybe not voting, but, would be there to kind of be the bridge between planning commission and HRA.
Not to my knowledge, but it's a discussion that we can have as an HRA, or also check our bylaws too.
Are you on the HRA?
All council is on HRA
Oh.
and city manager.
I wonder if that's like, in state law, you know how the planning commission duties and who can make up the planning commission are in statute. I wonder if the HRA has something like that too.
There may be, yeah, that'd be the
I
first
can
place to
forward the
check.
bylaws on the HRA, and that would,
the
you.
HRA only requires residency.
Oh,
State
okay.
statute requires they be residents of the city. But yeah, I don't know. The HRA statute, I don't know what our HRA ordinance is. I've never seen it. But I think any commission can probably have just a non-voting.
Like an
Ex officio.
advisory
Yeah.
role.
Yeah.
Just a thought. I mean, I've had, I think it's worked in some other towns where I've presented stuff to the HRA where it was helpful to have that other person there to, I mean, and you're basically a planning commissioner, so I can understand that it's kind of would be maybe an extra piece, but just a thought.
Can sometimes
do you
help
have-
with coordination.
Yeah.
Do you have like a list of like comparable communities that have this model?
I could come up, with that.
Yeah, just
Just
like
the
a
ones
few,
I've-
and that might be helpful.
Yeah.
Just take a look at.
Yep.
And have that discussion.
Rick,
Nothing to add at this point.
okay, John,
Put your hands together. Don't hit me.
why?
I'm running for mayor,
What?
just to let you know.
Hey.
They've been grooming me to do this, so I thought you were just gonna whale me.
Are you really? Is that true?
Yes, I
Oh.
am. Yeah.
Not gonna start at council, huh?
See, I knew you were gonna take me out.
Well, good for you. I mean,
thank
it's
you.
always good to
Appreciate it.
get involved, so good for
Appreciate
you.
it. Thanks.
Got your signs out yet?
Nope, still working on that part of it. I just went to the National Night Out, and so I went to 8 of those, so meet a lot of nice people.
No, I don't think
I didn't recall seeing you
you can
at the
come to
one.
Colby Hills, John.
Colby.
Yeah, I was all over.
There were a lot.
There's a lot of North St. Paul I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it
Well-
took, yeah, in some corners.
I don't know, Andrew, what do you think? He didn't visit
I
us
don't
at
know. You're not
Colby.
going to have a lot of
Where
support.
are you
over
guys?
Colby Hills.
Colby Hills.
There you go.
That's what I
Have to have another
Colby's
party.
Hills is the next
Yeah,
thing.
see, there you go.
Another party.
The forgotten part of town.
Well, like I said, I went way down to that little teeny corner down there where it's Sterling, then all of a sudden North St. Paul starts up again.
I think-
I didn't even know that was part of
I
it.
think there was no physical way that a person could go to all of them because there were a
No.
lot of a lot of events.
You
Yeah.
could
Like
be there 5
18 of
minutes.
them.
Indian
Yeah.
Way.
Only made it to 3.
Well, a couple of them got, a lot of good questions and had a lot of concerns, so I
Good.
was going along quite a ways. There was a
I
lot of
bet.
conversations.
And it was not the most comfortable
No,
night to
especially
be.
for a big boy with compression socks on, it wasn't the best.
I'm glad you say these things, because they wouldn't even occur to me. All right, Patrick.
Good. I don't think I have anything to share at this point. I have one thing to talk about offline, but no.
Okay. Cameron,
I just have a question. What is the HRA?
Housing and Redevelopment Authority.
Okay, all right. I thought it was housing, but I
You know,
couldn't,
we
I've
should-
known it under different initials, so.
We use those, we shouldn't do that. you know, when we're discussing, because there probably could be people listening too who don't have any idea what we're talking about. We get so used to
True.
Yeah, I know,
using those.
it's something I bring up at MinDOT all the time, especially when you have multi-departmental meetings, and you realize that one set of initials means three entirely different things to different people.
We live in an acronym world.
Get a little acrimonious about it.
In fact, some groups tie themselves up in knots trying to come up with a name that they can use an acronym for.
So did everybody make it to the soft opening?
Yes.
Yes,
Man, that food was good.
excellent.
Yes.
Really good.
Excellent.
Been to Max twice.
Yes,
and
me
it's
too.
Okay.
excellent
I've
both
been there about
times.
7 times now because we're remodeling our kitchen right now.
Oh, good for you.
Good job.
That's an excuse, I like that.
I would have a closed artery with those bacon cheese curds if I went 7 times. I
Yeah.
always have to get those.
Oh,
They're good.
alrighty, well, I don't have anything else, so I don't think there's anything upcoming. Wait a minute, what's,
Actually, the Lily development is going to be discussed at the August 16th council workshop. And so the chair and the co-chair from the EDA and the Planning Commission will be getting an invitation. We'd like for you to be able to attend that for the
August 16?
August 16th for the Lily Building
workshop.
discussion, the workshop on that's a Tuesday, just before the council meeting.
Was there any update on city manager?
Yeah, any update on the city manager?
Yeah, so I think we have about 12 applicants
Well, that's-
that we will be reviewing. We've already received their information. And on Monday, we will be making a determination of who will go into the next phase, the interview process. We should be having our decision made by the end of the month. So hopefully, we will have a city manager in September.
Nice.
I don't know, so I hope.
So how many do you think you'll interview?
I think last time we interviewed like 6. I can't remember, but probably about 6. And then staff also provide their input as
Okay.
well.
You're gonna do the interviews the same way? The video and everything?
Yep, they have the video. It's the same process. It's the same firm. We actually had a warranty, so.
Oh, nice.
They're going to swear they're going to be here more than 6 months?
No guarantees in this life.
No, there
That's
are
for sure.
not.
Great point.
Okay. Anybody have anything else before? Otherwise, our next meeting is September something.
First.
September 1st.
Yep.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
think, speaking of the
Oh, there
Lily
it is.
Building,
Yep.
I think we'll have the Lily Building PUD on that agenda too.
Oh, nice.
On the first?
Okay.
Yep.
Sweet.
Okay, then there's no other business or comments to be made, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Is your, Brandy, is your car charged yet, or should we keep going?
I don't think it's a fast charger that,
I'll make a motion to
I'll
adjourn.
second the motion.
Okay, motion by Patrick, second by John. All
Yep.
those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. We're adjourned at 8:18. Thank
All right.
you, everyone.